Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ambassador Sales, Ms. Ledeen, I was glad to hear you raise the question whether an uncontrolled southern border poses a security risk to the United States. In November of last year, we had Director Wray and Secretary Mayorkas and also Director Christine Abizade of the National Counterterrorism Threat Center before us, and this little colloquy occurred. I said, thank you, Director Abizade, does the NCTC assess a significant threat from the historic level of uncontrolled crossing at the southern border? Here was her answer. Thank you. We don't actually. Border security is really important. If we look at the nature of the threat and how it's evolved here in the United States homeland, it's been striking how the evolution to lone actors actually reflects how much more difficult it is for terrorists to enter the United States. We look historically at the kinds of attacks we've experienced here in the homeland. None of them have been connected to major illegal crossings or otherwise from the southwest border. And then she finished, that said, it remains a top intelligence priority. Does that provide you comfort, Ambassador Sales?
Well, Congressman, I have to say that I'm considerably more worried about the state of our border security. As I indicated in my written statement, we've seen a dramatic spike over recent years in the number of known or suspected terrorists who were apprehended coming across the southern border. From zero several years ago to 95 last fiscal year to 69 so far, and those are just the ones we know about.
Thank you for that. I find myself in agreement. I asked Secretary Mayorkas back in April of last year, how do you know that none of the 2.6 million, including the 600,000 gotaways, you don't even know who they are, and you know 41, it was at that time, 41 on the terror watch list have been encountered. How do you know those people aren't a source of risk of terrorism? I said, Congressman, the individuals that we have encountered on the terrorism screening data, and I said, you're not answering my question, sir. I said, you know, Ramzi Youssef claimed asylum, right? Now, I got that a little bit wrong. I don't think, but he got a claim to come in. He was encountered and admitted into the country. I think it wasn't called credible fear at the time, but it was something similar. And I said, and you know that he got to go and be released into the country on an assertion of credible fear. He was released, and 6 months later, he bombed the World Trade Center. Among the 600,000 gotaways, just that small portion, Mr. Secretary, how do you know that are you waiting for a mushroom cloud? My time had expired, and he was given the opportunity to respond, and here's what he said. Mr. Chairman, I won't dignify that last question with a response. What about you, Ms. Ledeen? Are you comforted by the Secretary of Homeland Security's certitude that we face no risk among those hundreds of thousands of people entering the United States without ever contacting authorities? That it is not a material terrorism risk? Does that make any sense to you?
Mr. Congressman, as a resident of a border state, I can tell you I'm extremely concerned on a personal level, and with my professional background, I am increasingly concerned given the sheer number of people who are crossing over that we have no idea who they are and what their backgrounds are. Also, going back to the Afghanistan withdrawal, those first couple of planes that took off from Kabul airport were full of people who had not been vetted, and subsequent vetting showed that actually some of them were, had in place IEDs and appeared on our biometrics. So I have very grave concerns about this, and I thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Schroden, I want to give you sort of the opportunity maybe for the other side. You said, when I was wrapped up with Ms. Abizade, I said let's see if I got enough time to do that. I don't. Let me just ask you the question directly. You said a minute ago that what keeps you up at night is religious and ethnically motivated domestic violent extremists. Given the 600,000 gotaways, and actually I think that number is bigger now. I have a hard time keeping the number. I know that when I talked to Secretary Mayorkas, that was what we thought in April last year. How do you know that DVEs are a bigger threat than someone who's lurked in among the 600,000 we've never contacted?
Well, so I can't speak, sir, to that with any particular analysis that I've done on myself or done by myself. My comment earlier was based on the intelligence assessment of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, who concluded that REMVs are the greatest terrorist threat to the United States citizens right now.
You know, it's interesting, and I hear that all the time from officials here, and my time's about to, but Liz's final comment. What concerns me is exactly that. That's what I get. You get these assessments, but we've seen intel failures all across time. It's interesting as a member of Congress, I don't know if the American people really understand or appreciate this. I'm never told why they think that. I'm never shown data to indicate the numerosity of those threats versus others, or the likelihood of their carrying something out. It's a very frustrating thing for me as a member of Congress, I'm fairly new, to see that phenomenon exist, but it's interesting to me because you're in the same spot I am. They say that, but it doesn't make sense. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.